Catherine, Nick, I'm 30 now and I'm feeling grown and sexy.
Ooh, I love that energy to start us off, Ruby.
Thank you.
I I don't know. This doesn't feel office appropriate.
I know, but it's actually very journalistic. Have you two heard of Bliss, the St. Louis restaurant that bans women under 30 and men under 35? They say they want to preserve their grown and sexy vibe.
Oh, wow. I did not know restaurants could ban people based on their age.
I did not either, but it sounds like they're really accounting for the maturity difference between men and women. Apparently, I'm not allowed to feel grown and sexy.
No, you're not.
As a very much grown person, I'm kind of into this.
I don't know. I'm feeling like this is unnecessarily exclusive. I'm not sure how I feel about this.
Well, you aren't allowed in anyway, Nick, so who cares?
Oh, wow. I've navigated to their website, and it looks like Bliss has sort of a casual party vibe to it, lots of karaoke and dancing. And I can definitely see why they would want to keep 22-year-olds out. I just want to prove that I'm mature enough.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Karaoke and dancing? I wonder how the sound is in this place because, guys, as everyone over the age of 40 knows, most restaurants are too loud and need to install sound paneling because we can't hear anything.
Mm-hmm. I feel that.
So, in other news, given the mature, grown, and sexy vibes of Bliss, I'm guessing they are not serving Welch's craft cocktails.
Welch's Craft, like just like grape juice cocktails.
No. Welch's branded craft cocktails.
Wait, Welch's craft cocktails? That's an oxymoron.
You honestly can't look away for 2 seconds in this industry. You drop your guard even a little bit, and they've dropped boozy Welches. It's like they're responding to some sort of demand for cocktails among the preschool set.
So, we agree, Boozy Welch's is not grown and sexy enough for Bliss, my new favorite restaurant in St. Louis.
No, but Welch's brand craft cocktails, could be a way to get your colicky baby to sleep through the night.
Oh my God.
Catherine,
Just wait, guys.
I'm editing that out, but I also agree, not with the baby thing. But
We don't know.
I don't, I don't think that a restaurant that wouldn't let me in would also be then serving Welch's boozy cocktails.
And now, for our first commercial break, episode 158 of The Foretop is brought to you by Welch's Craft Cocktails, the easiest way to get away with drinking in public.
Spotted species stopped short of soaring into Sonoma. A price pullback by Château Figeac. The Bay Area celebrates Pinot Noir from afar, and are the world's 50 best restaurants too avant-garde for their own good? These are the top wine news stories we're following on episode 158 of The Foretop, your favorite wine news podcast. I am your host, Catherine Cole, joined by Ruby Welkovich and Nick Toole.
Wait, sorry, Catherine. I know you were about to tell us about our first news story, but I just noticed on Welch's Craft Cocktail website that they ask you to slide into their DMs. What year do they think this is? I'm very annoyed.
I don't know. I'm starting to be a little torn because my allegiance is to all grape-based alcoholic beverages.
You
So,
guys, the news.
okay, right. The news, our first news story. Yeah. Okay, so as if the wine industry needs another thing to worry about, multiple news outlets are reporting this week that a metal sculpture with spotted lanternfly egg masses on it was intercepted at the Truckee Border Protection Station in California. This shipment was headed for dong dong, Sonoma County. But seriously, this is really scary news for wine growers because spotted lanternflies love to eat the sap of grapevines.
That's right. This invasive species from Asia arrived in the US back in 2014 and has been an absolute menace on the East Coast, particularly Prospect Park.
Mm.
This is the first time it has been reported in California. While this shipment was stopped, one can only assume that there will be undetected egg masses on other shipments.
Yeah, detection can be difficult because spotted lanternfly egg masses look like cakes of mud, so that looks pretty normal. As Catherine noted, the little buggers love to eat grapevine sap and leave behind a sticky residue on the plants that can cause plant stress, so grapevines can die as a result.
Well, thanks to all the news outlets reporting on this because it's important that wine growers know and can identify the spotted lanternfly. The first step to stopping them is identifying them. And we found this story on winebusiness.com, but numerous publications have shared good information and images this past week.
So, folks, Google spotted lanternfly if you have not already. The USDA recommends smashing and scraping the invasive egg masses off into a plastic bag, sealing it, and disposing of them in the municipal trash.
Oh, can I do that with a couple of guys I've dated in the past? No?
I'm all for it. So, as a good New Yorker, you know I read the New York Times. And as an actress, my favorite piece in the Times last week was, of course, about performance. Do you know who wrote it?
The theater critic.
Nope. It was actually the restaurant critic, Pete Wells. The title
Ah.
was, Are These Really the World's 50 Best Restaurants?
Oh, yeah. So every year since 2003, this British food media company called William Reed has published what is supposedly the definitive list of the world's best restaurants. And this 50 best restaurants list is now, I would say, maybe more influential than the James Beard Awards and the Michelin Guide in terms of restaurant clout.
So, does this list answer the eternal question, what makes a world-class restaurant? Is it the curated 200 course meal or is it just a, perfectly boiled bowl of ramen?
Well, as Pete Wells laments in the New York Times, the world's 50 best restaurants list will have you believe that it's a 200-course meal, along with a lot of pomp, circumstance, art, and theater. His whole piece takes aim at what he considers to be over the top dining experiences.
This article echoes a lot of the sentiments I've seen online on, threads and Instagram since the list dropped. People in the industry are not impressed, and many of them are also fed up by the growing dominance of these, dining experiences. I'm putting air quotes around those.
Yeah, Wells describes these restaurants as, quote, endurance tests, theatrical spectacles, monuments to ego, and, as he says, the two most frightening words in dining, quote, immersive experiences. He talks to someone who recently recovered from a 4-hour meal at Disfrutar in Barcelona. That's the number one restaurant this year. And this diner says he never wants to go back. He's quoted as saying, it was an assault and not fun.
Oof.
I love that Pete Wells's Twitter icon is Statler of Statler and Waldorf, the two grumpy old man Muppets. I feel like if he hadn't written this piece, they definitely would have.
Yeah, I mean, what are these restaurants for? Like, are they really for eating? According to Wells, one of the restaurants presents a menu that is written in emojis and serves what the chef claims is the brain of a rat raised in a basement feedlot. Um, okay, gaggin. That's the world's ninth best restaurant. I can't even say this with a straight face. I will not be flying to Bangkok to eat there.
Yeah, nor will I be traveling to Copenhagen to eat the Hannibal Lecter dish, one of 50 or so courses served in a single meal at Alchemist. Apparently, it's served in the cavity of a realistic life size model of a man's head with the top of the cranium removed.
Ew.
Uh, this, this beautiful dish comes after the lamb brains served with ants and mealworms because
Ew.
you got to get your daily intake of
Oh my God.
brains.
Well, one thing I do want to take issue with, as much as I enjoyed this column, and I'm sure Wells knows this, but he kind of hints that only since El Bulli showed up has dining been like this, and this is a kind of a new thing. But I want to say back in episode 79 of the Four Top, we had a fascinating guest named Crystal King. She's a novelist. She writes historical fiction, and she would tell you that these food experiences, these abstract performance artist food type experiences have been going on for centuries, millennia. I mean, basically since we discovered fire. So this is not a new thing, but it's definitely hyped right now. And of course, as followers of this, students of this know, Joris Karl Heisman influenced a lot of these avant garde chefs with his 1884 novel A Rebours or Against Nature. Then there was, of course, the Futurist Cookbook, or La Cucina Futurista, published by Filippo Tommaso Marinetti in 1932. And, then there was Salvador Dali's cookbook,
Nick, she's
1970.
overheating. I think we need to shut her down.
Yeah, I'm on it. Don't worry.
And of course, as
All right, Ruby, when I say Japan, what alcohol comes to mind?
Sake. That's the first thing I think of.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Catherine?
Okay, other than sake, Japanese whiskey is delicious, and then there's omeshu, that delicious plum wine.
Exactly. But as Esther Mobley of the San Francisco Chronicle writes, a Japanese grape wine, not plum wine, has been turning heads amongst the in the know drinkers in the US. This Pinot Noir is now the Bay Area's latest impossible to get cult bottle.
I feel like Japan is good at whatever it does. Great food, great whiskey, great 7-Elevens, great wine, I guess. Yeah, just great.
Yeah, I remember years and years ago, before canned cocktails were a thing here, finding delicious canned cocktails in a vending machine in Japan.
Yeah, they have
Ooh.
everything in vending machines there. They have hot drinks in vending machines, like hot coffee and hot teas, and they also have bread, like canned bread in vending machines.
Mhm.
It's great. I want to move there.
Well, in New England, we have canned bread too. It's called brown bread. So we've got it.
Oh.
I'm from New England and I have never had canned bread.
It's more of a Massachusetts main thing.
Okay.
Hmm. Well, anyway, this is a wine show, so I love that everyone's buzzing about Japanese wine right now. And yeah, I have heard of this producer, Domaine Takahiko, and this Pinot Noir, which is called Nanatsumori. It's imported by Jose Pastor Selections, and apparently the Japanese are so enthralled by this natural wine producer, Domaine Takahiko, that that hundreds of people show up every autumn to volunteer at harvest.
I knew you'd have all the intel, Catherine. That is right. This tiny 11-acre organically grown vineyard on Hokkaido is a big deal in Japan and has slowly grown in popularity since it first came to the States. It now retails for far above the wholesale price. Some shops have listed it for as high as $676, which is like $500 above what it should, theoretically retail for.
Well, I've heard it's even tough to find in Japan, so I'm not surprised. But hey, this is super exciting. I always love to see success in different wine growing regions around the world.
Yeah, and I take it Japanese wine isn't typically a hot topic.
No, but I think this is the beginning of something great.
Yeah, Esther Mobley actually references another great Japanese producer, Beau Paysage. Did I say that right? Beau Paysage?
Sounds good to me.
And the Burgundy great Domaine de Monti is actually growing Pinot Noir and Chardonnay in Hokkaido.
I imagine a legacy player like that wouldn't bother if they didn't see some potential. It'll be really interesting to see how the wine industry in Japan grows.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank Nick for having me introduce this story because he knows I love to pronounce French words.
Well, I wasn't about to try and do it myself, so go get him, Tiger.
It's all good. I need to practice for my upcoming trip to Paris. Here we go. So, in our continuing coverage of Bordeaux prices, the 2023 vintage of Château Figeac was just released and its price is down about 40% this year. That's a huge drop.
Wow.
And in just the previous vintage, 2022 Château Figeac was promoted to Premier Grand Cru Classé A in the Saint-Emilion classification.
You know what, Ruby? Despite Nick's plotting and planning, you did an excellent job.
Thank
That
you.
was my French accent. So yeah, this is a big deal. We're looking at a huge price drop for Chateau Figeac, but as Arabella Milam of the Drinks Business points out, Figeac raised prices by more than 55% when it released its 2022 vintage because of that upgrade to Premier Grand Cru Classe A. So a reduction this big isn't quite as shocking as it sounds. But looking ahead at our outline here, it looks like Nick wants me to take over the French pronunciations. But you know what I think? I think we should have him do that.
No, 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 no. I think it's always best when we just, stick to the script.
No. I insist.
This is karma.
Ugh. All right. Woof. Okay. Here we go. So, Chateau Figeac is not the only producer dropping prices on the 2023 vintage. Chateau Montrose is looking at
Good job.
Chateau Montrose is asking for 120 euros a bottle, a 17% reduction from 2022's price. Chateau Beauséjour,
Mm-hmm.
okay, is offering a 10% discount. So we're looking at 108 euros a bottle. And Chateau La Conseillante is asking for $150 a bottle, a 32% drop. So deals, deals, deals. Come on down.
Nick, that was great, except it's 150 euros, not dollars.
Ah.
These are all very highly regarded, sought after wines. So, what's the deal on the price cuts?
Hey, folks, you know what? It's all in episode 152 of The Four Top, so just tune in and you'll know more about this.
Side note, I would like to point out in closing that Drinks business correspondent Colin Hay is mentioned in this article, and Colin Hay is also the lead singer of Men at Work. Or maybe it's the same person and he's got a sidekick. So I come from the land down under.
Okay, it's time for some listener comments. Each week we ask you, the listener, a question about the wonderful world of wine. Last week we asked folks, was 2023 Napa Valley's vintage of the century? Catherine, Nick, what did our listeners have to say on social media?
Well, we actually asked this question because very well known and highly regarded wine writer Karen McNeil, who is a past guest on the Four Top, declared in Decanter magazine that 2023 is indeed Napa Valley's vintage of the century. And we were so delighted when she reached out to us on LinkedIn to offer a bit more insight. She writes, I've tasted lots of 2023 wines from the barrel and talked to a big number of Napa winemakers, and I have to say, I have never seen such elegant wines so early in their lives. Part of the reason? It was cool. Lots of wineries completed their harvest in November. When was the last time that happened? And I have to agree, Karen, I feel like more and more often harvest is in August. I'm super excited about this vintage. I love a cool vintage. I love a lot of hang time. And I agree with you. I think this is going to be an outstanding vintage.
Is a cool vintage similar to a chilled wine?
Oh, I still have much to teach you, Ruby.
So Mike Maroon, replying to Karen on LinkedIn, writes, I'm hearing a lot of meh pass on the 2022s from Napa. Sounds like 23 will be worth the wait.
And someone named Catherine. Well, that is you, Catherine. So we'll skip that one. I've turned to
Everyone
Instagram.
hears from me enough.
Yes. I'm turning to Instagram instead, where at M Millgate says, given that there are 76 more years to go in the century, it might be wise to wait until the century is actually over to make such a claim. I think he might have a point. So let's ask Karen how her opinion has changed in 2100.
I don't know. I mean, with climate change, we may be at the end of our great vintage run here.
Yeah, and with advances in medical science, I think that Karen might still be around in 2100 to check up on that vintage.
Get over to Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn to let us know your thoughts on our current question of the week we posted on Monday. Has climate action culture taken hold in the Napa Valley?
Yeah, and so, guys, what is our next question going to be? I think it's, is the world's 50 best restaurants list total BS or is it gospel?
I like that one.
Ooh, brains.
Brains for dinner.
Rat brains.
All right, guys, it's time for this week's dessert course. And Nick, I understand you are very excited to share some dessert.
Yes, my turn. So I'm excited because Portland brought home 2 James Beard Awards last week.
Whoa. Portland, Maine.
Portland, Maine. Yeah, excuse me, Portland, Maine. A fairly new spot, Zoo Bakery, won Outstanding Bakery, and Atsuko Fujimoto of Norimoto Bakery won Outstanding Pastry Chef or Baker. And what I love about both these spots is they're both kind of hole-in-the-wall, humble spots, and they're run by super friendly people who just want to make good food. So, nothing flashy or throwing pots and pans across the room. And a fun anecdote, when I moved to Portland back in 2016, I moved into an apartment above Atsuko's former bakery called 1010 PA, which was co-owned by my landlord. So I got to wake up every morning smelling her delicious baking and got to talk to her a bit. So I'm excited that she's been recognized. And I just want to note to listeners, this is an anti-recommendation. If you come from out of state, go to Dunkin' Donuts. I want to keep all the James Beard Award-winning food for myself.
That's very generous of you.
And wow, it sounds like baking is like a big deal in Portland, Maine. I did not know.
It is now.
Pastry, yeah.
Really cool.
Well, I am really glad that neither of these are on the world's 50 best restaurants list because they sound like way too down to earth, real, and delicious for that crazy list. So,
Yes, absolutely.
well, this has been the Four Top Podcast. I am our executive producer, Catherine Cole.
I'm our producer, Nick Toole.
I'm media and design manager, Ruby Welkovich.
Keelan King is the composer and performer of our theme music. please visit our website, thefourtop.org, to learn more about us and listen to back episodes.
If you have not already subscribed to The Four Top on iTunes or Spotify, please do so, and please leave us a rating.
Hey y'all, this is important. Every rating feeds the algorithm. You gotta feed that algorithm, and it helps new listeners find The Four Top.
Well, from the pages of the Futurist Cookbook, this is Catherine signing out.
From the bread, brioche, and butter capital of the United States, Portland, Maine, this is Nick Toole signing out.
And from Chateau Prospect Park in Brooklyn, New York, this is Ruby signing out. Stay safe out there, and thanks for listening.